Hey there, fellow Defenders. This is Defenders TV Podcast, episode 160, all about Luke Cage, season 2, episode 4, I Get Physical.
You think I'm holding back? You think I'm holding back? I'm out to save you.
I love that sounds like Mariah Dillard in that opening theme that we have, and it isn't. It's a sample from a 1950s track that our wonderful composer, Mississippi MacDonald, used on this theme. Very cool.
Yeah, very cool. But I don't get the Dillard.
Oh, it's Mariah Stokes. Sorry.
Yeah.
Always the Stoke.
Always. Welcome back, fellow Defenders. We're on episode 4 of our coverage of Luke Cage season 2, I Get Physical. This is Defenders TV Podcast, episode 160, and I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
Hello there, fellow Defenders. I am one of your other hosts, John. Let's get physical. Let's get physical.
You stole that from my the last episode from me. I was all set to just burst into song, and now I will just say, hello, I am Chris.
Well, that's because you put it into our heads at the end of the last episode, Chris. You made it stick there for the entire last 5 days, I think. It is your fault, Chris.
Yeah, I will happily take that fault then.
Well, we're going to jump straight into our discussion all about episode 4 of Luke Cage. But if you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, please pop on over to our website at defenderstvpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to any good or evil podcast catcher of your choice to subscribe to our podcast. And you can also leave a voicemail with your thoughts on any of the episodes so far or any of the future episodes. Just click on the send voicemail button to leave us 90 seconds of your thoughts about any of the episodes.
Yes, and of course, as Mariah Dillard, aka Stokes, said in this episode, share the love, share the podcast.
I don't know whether she said that. I know she said, it's Dillard, bitch.
Well, she said that all right, but she did say share the love. She said it to Shades.
There you go. See, we have it there before her.
Yes, and if you're using Google Podcasts now, we are available there as well, which was released in Europe last week. So, yeah, get us. If you're using that, don't forget to get us there. Like and subscribe there as well.
That's
Leave
right.
us a review. But we're also over on Stitcher and every other, as Derek said, good or evil podcast catcher.
Excellent. I think we're going to kick into our discussion about this episode. First up, the episode was written by Matthew Lopez. Matthew Lopez is a former writer for WWE with SmackDown and Raw. He's written loads of episodes for that show. I think that's really cool.
That is very cool.
Isn't it?
There was a little bit of a Royal Rumble going on at the start there.
There certainly was, yeah, definitely. He's also written his own TV movie called Dive, and he worked as a writer's assistant on season 1 of Luke Cage. Has 2 full writing credits in this season. For season 2, he's done this episode and episode 11 of the season. So he has another one of the players that was in the background of the writer's room working with the writers last season, has moved up into the main head writer's room for this season. It's quite cool.
Can you smell what Luke Cage is cooking?
Woo! Exactly. This will be a Royal Rumble WWF WWE themed podcast from
Possibly.
now on.
Possibly.
When you're saying WWF, is that the Worldwide
Fun for
Wildlife
nature.
Federation?
World Wrestling Federation, because that's how old I am.
Well, let's move on. Matthew did a great job of this episode and has worked with the writers all the way through season 1. Great to see that he's got his move into main writer for season 2 of Luke Cage. The episode was directed by Sally Richardson Whitfield, former actress who's been working in TV and movies since the early 90s. She's done some Marvel shows. She's directed an episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and she is, at least for me, the first confirmed director for The Punisher season 2, because she directs episode 9 of that season. So she is now in the Marvel universe as a great director.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for the episode?
Sure. Knocked down and bruised, Luke Cage struggles with his run-in with Bushmaster and the after effects of his argument with Claire Temple. As footage of his fight goes viral and spreads across the internet, Luke finds himself increasingly by himself as Claire looks for space and Bobby Fish has to leave to serve as a donor for his sick daughter. Luke distracts himself as he follows the trail of clues surrounding the Jamaican Yardie gang and Bushmaster. With the help of Misty Knight, they discover the rest of Nigel Garrison's body and Bushmaster's drive to right the perceived wrongs committed against his parents. Meanwhile, Bushmaster comes face to face at Harlem's Paradise with Mariah Stokes and speaks of history, Harlem, and his ancestors' involvement in Harlem. Intrigued by their encounter, Shades follows him back to his restaurant to learn more, just as Ridenour learns more from Darius Comanche Jones. After continuing his investigation at Tilda's shop, Luke returns to Pops alone, but an unexpected knock at the door further adds to Luke Cage's misery.
And we'll have to wait to find out what that is for next time's episode. But an interesting ending to the episode. Once again, the correction from last season where we do have a cliffhanger at the end of each episode to push it on to the next episode. Another one that I was going, what's he being charged with? Really good. Well, let's kick off with our bullet point number 1. Chris, I think this is one for you because it's all about going viral on the internet. Our first point is D-Dubs gets some new footage.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised. We see Bushmaster lay the smackdown on none other than Luke Cage. And we did hypothesize the last episode what Bushmaster, what John was doing against that TV, kind of when he was practicing back and forth. And we see it live in action now. He's goes toe to toe with Luke. D-Dubs sits there and records the whole thing and then gets a lovely soundbite from none other than Bushmaster himself.
Yep.
It was just a bit like, what?
Because didn't we meet D-Dubs in season 1 where he was selling high-definition DVDs of the incident and high-definition DVDs of other fights that had gone on in New York? Wasn't that kind of his whole bit? So I know we talked about it in episode 1 that he's kind of become a little bit of a sidekick to Luke. He's based out of Pop's no longer barbershop, selling his wares and selling his t-shirts, but he's in it for the money. He's totally going to film this whole thing. He's been carrying around that equipment for weeks. Once again, uses the Harlem's Hero app to go and find Luke, so that he can maybe film some footage. Doesn't expect that he's going to get this footage of Luke getting laid out by Bushmaster. That move that he does, that backflip kick into Luke's face is just a superb kick.
I loved how the fight continued there. You know, he gets punched down at the end of episode 3, but he's back up and he's like going, okay, maybe that was a lucky jab or something like that. Maybe he's got a knuckle duster, a rock in his fist or something like that. But that scissor kick was fantastic. And, you know, the sweeping of the feet, great. I absolutely loved that. I loved how Bushmaster sort of held that presence and then how he interacts with D-Dubs. Just really, really good, laying down his presence in Harlem. And of course, it doesn't go unnoticed. Obviously, Shades, because it goes viral, sees it. So does Tilda. A lot of people see this going on, with the exception of Thomas from the Brooklyn branch of the NYPD. He seemingly doesn't get to use the internet that often, presumably too busy.
He's
maybe.
out working.
Exactly. Unlike Misty.
Exactly. The Harlem PD do see it. I love Bailey's reaction where he's kind of going, but this is really funny to watch, like the guy who thinks he's unbeatable getting his ass kicked.
Well, they're singing. I'm sure we'll see them doing shots in the next episode. Yeah, I mean, you've got Nadia singing like Jennifer Halliday, as Misty says. Bailey, they're singing all the Broadway tunes.
They seem to be having a lot of fun in Harlem PD this week, don't they?
They certainly
it's
do.
Like, we've run out of work to do. Let's just sit on YouTube for a couple of hours and watch videos.
So, bringing it back to D-Dub slightly, he sold the rights for the video to Sports Network. I'm assuming Luke gets royalties. Luke's in financial trouble. Is D-Dub just pocketing all this? Is it like kind of an escrow fund? I'm a bit like, I'm sure you're sharing the wealth, or Luke doesn't understand the sharing of how the money comes in.
I think D-Dub seems to feel that since he filmed it, it's his footage and he owns all the rights, because he did say an exclusive deal, didn't he, with SportsCenter or with the Sports Network.
Yeah.
So I think he feels it's all his. None of it's Luke, even though he took a pounding for that video, you know?
And he does, like, I was happy to see the pounding he takes wasn't just shook off, if you want to put it that way.
yeah.
Exactly.
Like, this continues throughout the episode, the concussion, and it's good, because we talked about how Luke Cage, basically, he was on the rise, he had to have the fall. So we can see the fall happening here. He's stronger, he's more powerful, his support structure, D-Dubs, other people, Claire, are leaving, so he's losing that, and he's discovering that, yes, he's more powerful, he's more indestructible, he's the unstoppable Luke Cage, he's incredible, he's any other word or verb that we want to use to describe him.
Well, ones that aren't copyrighted by Spider-Man anyway.
Of course, but I was going indestructible, incredible, the astonishing, incredible Hulk.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree. I really liked seeing his fragility of Luke Cage. As you say, like, D-Dubs is kind of making the book out of him rather than Luke Cage making the book with Heroes for Hire. You've got Claire effectively not answering her phone when Luke immediately after getting back to Pop's Barbers tries to call her because, you know, he's spitting blood. And she doesn't answer. And then we see that her mum has put the apartment up to sublet.
Yeah.
And all these kind of structures, as you say, Chris, just gradually sort of fading into the background and leaving sort of Luke Cage as this lonely rock, you know, this island all alone. I really liked seeing that. I liked seeing Luke having to deal with everything on his own. Even Bobby Fish at the end has to head on over to like the other side of the country so that he can help his sort of long lost or estranged daughter as well for the donor for the kidney.
Yeah.
I really kind of enjoyed seeing this, and it's only really Misty that he still is kind of connected to, and even with Misty, she certainly is not allowing him in, so to speak. I love that "oh hell no" that she does in the car when he kind of, you know, he's kind of feeling for a place to lay his head really on the sofa in the spare bedroom, and she's like, "Oh, hell no." So well delivered. I just really liked it. And even at the end when, you know, he says he will walk home and she goes, "You take your sports bag. That's no excuse for you to come round to mine to come and collect it afterwards." Just so good. I love Misty in this.
But there is a granny who suggested some coffee. Just saying.
Oh my
I don't think he's going to move into that place, I must say. But no, I love that interaction between himself and Misty was really, really good. I love that they have a kind of investigation going on together, that she pulls him in and they kind of work out what way to cover it up. We talked about it in Jessica Jones season 2, Chris, where you were saying it would be nice to have a cop on the side of the vigilantes and working with them and having that kind of connection. Misty's obviously the one that's made for that purpose, to be the cop that works with the vigilantes. But I love how they do work together. I love that she's kind of going, okay, we've been in this area. We need to work out why a Harlem detective and Luke Cage will be together, and he's kind of gone, "Oh, well, just say you followed me. I'm in trouble all the time anyway, so it's grand. That won't get you into too much trouble." And she goes, "Well, the doghouse I'm in is better than the doghouse you're in, so that's fine with me," you know. Good little interaction between the two, and again, leading to the idea that they will be working together outside of the police department when eventually Misty possibly becomes a PI in the future.
So that's kind of where I was excited, but also, oh, this is going to end badly. She's bending a lot of rules here.
Yeah, big
So
time.
the question I have is, will she still be a cop at the end of this season? Like, do we think that the move to PI will happen sooner? Or will they actually break with kind of the comics tradition, which is not unheard of, and she will remain a police officer, but like special people unit, where her job is liaison to, like, a Coulson, but for the NYPD.
Right.
I would say she is going to be a daughter of the dragon.
Well, yeah.
Because I agree, like, she's completely bending the rules. Ridenour has got literally no time for her. It's only because she is the Private Ryan of the NYPD, it would seem. He's really not putting any effort into bringing her back into NYPD at all. Like, what does he say to her? Basically, you know, if you're doing some moonlighting and you're looking at these cases on your own, don't bother to turn up, or you might as well not turn up. So, like, I think that relationship is completely gone, and I'm just waiting for him to find out that she is moonlighting. Now, she's still being careful in that regards, because she does say, how am I going to explain how Misty Knight, Detective Misty Knight, and Luke Cage turned up at this warehouse in Brooklyn and found a decapitated body? And, you know, long gone but not forgotten, Nigel Garrison. There he is
Nigel.
again. He's, to be honest, he's been in all 4 episodes so far.
That's true.
I'm sure we'll see his fingers probably in episode 5.
Well, doesn't Shade have his head at the moment?
Yeah, so
Somewhere.
that's going to pop up again. So in fairness, he's done pretty well.
Yep.
He looks a lot thinner. He looks like he's lost at least a head of weight. Even with decaying in a room in a warehouse by himself, he's looking svelte.
He's a sharp
Like,
dresser too.
I'm telling you, like, the decay is good. And I was just going to say, just to back up what John said, the probable cause bit was nice. It's kind of like, oh, what about probable cause? Oh, do you hear that? I definitely do. Bam.
Yeah.
They're skirting the rules, but...
She's
they're-
playing smart.
Yeah,
She
exactly.
is playing smart, in fairness. But I still think that she might end up miscuing at some point, and Ridenour is just going to kind of pounce, basically.
I just don't think her life is very long in the police department. That's all. That she thinks she's going to decide to move on, or it's going to be decided for her to move on. Speaking of moving on, bullet point number 2. Let's get on to Tilda and Luke. We have the meeting of one of the Stokes family and Luke Cage. Very careful not to reveal herself as Tilda
Yeah.
Stokes. And very careful in many, many other ways. I think I'm starting to land on your side here, Chris, about Tilda possibly having a slightly shadier side to her than we would have thought, being the innocent in the first couple of episodes. We see her remixing the potion that she gave to Bushmaster, using all the ingredients they had, making it up, and trying to work out what it was he was trying to create. But it doesn't work for her. She's still trying to work out what exactly it is. And then Luke arrives to find out what it was that she sold to him, and she plays completely coy. She says, oh, well, half the people that come in here got a bag like that when they got their stuff, and at least 3/4 of my customers are Jamaican men. So, hey, I can't really help you out. But she knows who Luke is. She knows he just got beaten up by a Jamaican man on a YouTube video that she clearly watched, and she doesn't put 2 and 2 together in front of Luke, at least. So quite interesting to have that little shadier side of her in this episode.
I'm sticking with this. There is more to her. You saw that she, as soon as she figured out the Nightshade connection, she jumped into an old box, metal container with other books, pulling out some stuff. So she's definitely aware now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there is a not so sweet, not so innocent side to Tilda in this. I think that's what we're going to discover.
Definitely.
Will she end up being a true Stokes by the end of this?
I think
I'm still leaning towards that. I think that we'll get kind of hints and drops across the remainder of the season. I'd like to see a reveal that because Bushmaster was sent to her from the other Yardies.
Yeah.
So maybe she has a connection with the Yardies.
Right.
Her trip where, remember there was a photo of her with a child in an African child as well.
Oh, right.
When the PR lady slid the photo to Mariah, there was a photo of her, and I was like, maybe that's in, like, she went to the African continent and worked with refugees or something. And then I'm like, what if she went to Jamaica?
Right.
And she was helping in Jamaica, and then we find out she has some connection there, that they're the Yardies. It's like she supplies something. So, and it turns out she's not the innocent.
Yeah.
And I think that then you have that whole the apple doesn't fall far from the tree storyline against Stokes versus MacGyver.
There
Yeah.
were definitely moments in the scene with Tilda and Luke where she was kind of playing that role that Stephanie played, that Mariah had trained her into in the first episode, where she was talking about, find their weaknesses and play on it. So she's touching Luke's skin, finding out the weaknesses that he has and talking to him very playfully to begin with, and towards the end kind of thing, he's playing back with it. He's definitely taking the cues from her that there's something going on between the two of them. One day after he's been kicked out by Claire, oh well, I guess he wasn't smarting as long as I thought he was going to be smarting.
Yeah, I mean, this was a really interesting scene because, like, when I first watched it, I really did think, I was like, I didn't quite know how to take that. But then all of a sudden, when I watched it again, it was like, it really just hit on me how managed she was being, how sort of reserved. She knew exactly what she was saying. Even at the end when Luke said, what's your name? And she gave him her first name. Mm-hmm. I thought that was just really, really interesting. I wonder whether she will end up being, say, Mariah's savior, in the sense that she now knows about Bushmaster's recipe and probably what it's used for, whether she has some counter concoctions that can work against it. Mm-hmm. I just wonder whether that may be the case further down the line. And I agree with you. I think there is an element here where we're going to see that, she has Stokes blood in her, and she will be pure Stokes, as Mariah said about her in terms of how she played the piano. And leopard doesn't change its spots, or the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. That idea that really she is in this game as much as Mariah because it's something that makes her feel alive or something like that. So I really enjoyed this scene in the end between Luke and Tilda, just because of how kind of restrained it was. Both trying to find something out about one another, but it really being sort of a game of chess between the two of them. Really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I have an idea. Call me crazy. This is why I would love to consult with Writer Room. But anyway.
You're crazy, Chris.
Later on, and we're going to talk about it quite soon, who the Yardies are.
Mm-hmm.
What if Tilda is not 100% Stokes and Dillard? What if she is a product of Stokes and a liaison in the past, which would make her half Yardie? What if that is the connection? What if she actually is, we find out that she found out that she wasn't a Dillard at all. Mariah is her mother, but her father was someone else. She went off searching, found the Yardies. She is actually siding with John MacGyver, Bushmaster, to take down who she deems is a terrible person, a terrible thing, the Stokes. Because that scene in the house where she's talking about dinner and how the house used to always have this hushed tone, the bad side. What if that's like played on her continuously and she just wants to destroy that side? She wants to destroy the Stokes for what they did, to destroy her mother and father's marriage, blah, blah, blah. That would be a really nice push, or like the prompt that causes her to be bad. Again, now I'm speculating like hell here. I just like that idea of like, let's move it on to point 3 so people understand what I'm talking about.
I just wanted to say, fellow defenders, I hope you're taking down these as notes for Chris's theories for season 2 of Luke Cage, because I want to come back to them at the end of the season, because that's a really interesting theory, Chris.
Thank you. And yes, I think what we should do is at the beginning of the next Netflix one, we took down our predictions from watching no episodes, just random predictions. Come back at the end.
That'll definitely be wrong then. Yes, bullet point number 3. Who are the Yardies? We learn a lot more about the Yardies this episode. Some interesting stuff in there. Firstly, given by Thomas, the police department officer that Misty is talking to, where he effectively says that the Yardies haven't been around for years. And they have a gang called the Starlers who've been around since the Yardies were first put to ground many, many years ago. And he hasn't really heard about them in the area. But we kind of assumed that they'd been pretty lively and active in the last couple of episodes. Everybody seemed to know the name when Luke was mentioning it, but weren't very open to talking about it. But maybe that's because they've just come back out from underground or something.
Yeah, I mean, I thought this history of the Yardies, the Stylers, Bushmaster, or should I say the McIvers and the Stokes, really fascinating. I mean, so far I've just really enjoyed Bushmaster, and we get his name here, John McIver, from Jamaica, coming in here. We get to finally hear the guy at Gwen's Caribbean restaurant there on the corner. Anansi is his name. He is Bushmaster's uncle, not his brother, like I think I said in the synopsis, but at the time we hadn't watched ahead, didn't know, is his nephew. And yeah, we really get a sense of, where this guy is coming from. And I loved him meeting up with Mariah Dillard as well in Harlem's Paradise. That whole chat between Misty and the guy who had leased out the warehouse as well, about, the man on top of the hill. And then we get to see that, that he's going to see these people on top of Sugar Hill, which are the Dillards or the Stokes in Harlem. And you just get the sense, and I think this is what it really puts across, is just how important history and that sense of sort of maybe betrayal at some point down the line. We see that as soon as that name is mentioned, Mariah Dillard is fully clued in about who that is. And also we get this notion with not Whiskey Watch in this case, but Rum Watch. We get the Bushmaster Rum, and he says only 2 people know the secret and both are dead. And, we hear about Quincy McIver, and we get, this real sort of just dismissive tone from Mariah about people only remember the kings and the queens. They don't remember the skivvies, effectively.
It's the real history as written by the victors kind of speech.
Exactly. And I think this just really felt so nice. And yet the absolute balls of Bushmaster going into Harlem's Paradise, walking up, there's a shake of the hand there. And he sends a message. He ultimately does send a message to her. He puts his warning down that he's starting to feel comfortable in Harlem. You hear Shades talking about, well, they've just bought our weapons. And he doesn't need weapons because we've just seen him take down Luke Cage. So Shades certainly is feeling that there is a threat here. And maybe Mariah does as well, but she's certainly hiding it at the moment. And indeed, she is perfectly at ease to give as good as she gets when she really reinforces to Bushmaster that it is Mariah Dillard, bitch.
Absolutely, yeah. A couple of things I really liked about this scene, and I suppose you can kind of now piece together what it is that Bushmaster's problem is, right? I think this scene, particularly with Mariah, gives enough information as to what it's about. It seems to be to do with the history of the Stokes, what they did. Mariah says that her grandfather, Buggy, had 2 partners only, and they were her parents, the Stokes. But he's kind of saying, actually, no, he didn't. He had somebody else involved in this, which is Quincy McIver. It feels like he obviously took this name, Bushmaster, from the rum that they had created together. And Quincy McIver didn't get any credit for it. But that's how the Stokes empire was built, off the back of the money earned from Bushmaster rum. So that's quite interesting. We have a really good reason for a villain to have a name that seems a bit weird, right? So he's effectively just named it after his ancestral claim, which is Bushmaster rum. So it makes a lot of sense, right?
And the creation of the bar, the working on the bar was also his family. They built the bar. I was trying to figure that point a second time. Yeah. But yeah, and I do like that her, as you said, history is written by the victors. So when she's talking about who built the bar, who built Harlem Paradise, she only mentions the 2 most powerful people. It's like a shoe doesn't care about an ant. Along that lines, which was really just, look, it was completely what I would call a really, like, you didn't know what was going to happen. As soon as you saw Bushmaster walk in there, I was expecting things to pop off a bit. Like, basically see him, like, take a few bullets, leap over the balcony, land, and then walk out type of thing. Right. To show, I don't need your guns, I could take you down now if I wanted to. But we don't see that. Again, you see him rein in his anger.
Yeah.
I'm getting the sense that he wants to first deal with Luke. And, as he said, like, he wants to win the heart, and then he'll take the mind of Harlem. And the mind being Harlem's Paradise and and the Stokes. So it's very much a revenge is best served cold. Mm-hmm. And I think he's willing to wait. What I'm interested to see is what will make him move.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, what is so just seeing this interaction, like what's the point where he's like, okay, the goose is fat enough now that I can slaughter it. Mm-hmm. And that's it. Okay, again, we're 4 episodes in of a 13 episode series. I know they're going to build that up, but it's whetted my appetite, I think is the best way of putting it.
Definitely, and I do love the point that effectively Mariah is saying that she could just walk away right now. They're saying they have enough money to walk away right now, so if he doesn't take his opportunity to truly take her down, she could actually walk away with it and just leave it behind her. I don't think that's going to happen, though.
Yeah, or so she thinks. I mean, I think that we're kind of told that he gave her more than the 20 million that was required. Mm-hmm. And we hear Bushmaster saying, I want her to be fat when she goes to the slaughter, as you say, Chris. And at the end of the day, we see here Mariah Dillard and Piranha celebrating very early on in the morning this 350 million on paper. I think Shades is the one who's beginning to piece certain aspects of this together. Mm-hmm. He's being very distrustful. You know, what does he say? You know, unless I've got it in my hands, unless I can feel it and touch it, I don't believe we've got this 350 million that's on paper. We have Comanche saying ultimately that this guy is someone that moves fast. You know, do you really know that you're not getting hoodwinked here? And is he connected to Bushmaster in any way? Is this all a big setup in some way? So I think Bushmaster will move when he can destroy an empire. And I think that's his intention, is to destroy the empire. It may not even be to kill Mariah Dillard. It could be that she is destroyed as a person, both Absolutely. In terms as a councilwoman, in terms of her wealth, in terms of her reputation, which is partly criminal as well. And, you know, what is it? Shades does say he is coming for someone, and I don't think that person is Harlem. He's coming for you. I mean, Shades actually says this to Mariah Dillard, that he feels that Bushmaster is coming for her and not Luke Cage, as it looks at the moment. And we get Bushmaster really laying it on. I mean, that interaction in Harlem's Paradise was just so great. It was so layered in terms of just that immediate scene between Mariah and John McIver, but also just because you've had that history layered in as well. You know, you see Mariah looking into an old scrapbook. You see these old adverts for Bushmaster rum. And you really get a sense that there's a lot of history between these two, even with Bushmaster talking about the Talking Blues being the ancestors giving their history and keeping that going.
Great.
And, you know, Mariah Dillard is absolutely dismissive of that. She goes, I can't hear it. He is absolutely immersed in that soul of the Talking Blues, even in terms of the spirituality with regards to his ceremonies that he does to get the power or the movement to take down Luke Cage. So like, it's a real difference here between these two people coming from very similar backgrounds. I really, really enjoyed it. I just thought it was so nicely layered.
There's really something cool when you see Mariah go up against anybody of a similar intellect who's just got a great way with her words and a great way to act, and sometimes just strikes out like a snake, like that moment when she's being called Stokes once again. I think that's absolutely fantastically played.
I wonder, do you think after this interaction she is now aware of who John is? In terms of, he is one of the MacGyvers, he disappeared, he's come back to her. Has the realization dawned on her? Because what we know is John disappeared, went, and now he's come back the king, and he wants to take the man off the top of the hill.
I think 100% she knows exactly who this guy is.
Yeah.
She went straight for that book that had pictures of her grandfather and somebody else with him, the photographs of Bushmaster. him choosing that name, being Bushmaster, indicated everything she needed to know about who he was. She didn't know John McIver. She says that in the last episode, but the name rang a bell with her. So that's why she knows who this person is and why he would be coming for her. But
Okay.
she's trying to play it calm and cool,
Yeah.
trying to present that face that she always does, even to Shades. She's trying to present that face where she's in control, and she's kind of losing control.
Okay, that's interesting that you say that, because I was wondering, does she dismiss him because she just knows that she can deal with him? She doesn't feel threatened, even though she knows the history, she knows the background, all of that. She feels that she can control it and deal with this kind of pretender, because she maybe just sees him as Nigel, someone that she's dealt with before, that he has just taken it over. Maybe she doesn't realize how personal it is, but certainly Shades has got that inkling as well.
I think she sees it as, well, the Stokes already beat your family. There's nothing here for you. You're not them. They didn't get anything out of this. We won. The war is over. Walk away. I think that's the way she kind of sees it, but that speaks to her overconfidence as well. She hasn't had a huge amount of success since we've seen the start of season 2. So I don't know how she can be this confident about everything going her way. I suppose drinking at 9:15 in the morning, celebrating a $320 million on paper deal. I suppose that gives you a bit of confidence when somebody walks into your bar at 5:30 that night. Maybe, but
Yeah.
she shouldn't be this confident.
And the Bushmaster Birdie has told them everything. So they can manipulate that situation an awful lot. But I think moving on to bullet point number 4, there is another bit of manipulation going on here. We have Comanche the spy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, really interesting to see that this guy is an informer to Ridenour. Even though that's probably his cover story, that because of Scarf he was able to get off and so on, they have utilized that, and that he is, keeping a beady eye on Shades and Mariah for the NYPD.
So we were wondering why he was pushing so hard against Mariah and Shades to be involved in all the decisions and everything else that was going on. We knew there was something else behind him, and we knew either he wasn't long for this world, or he was going to convince Shades to drop Mariah at some point. But actually, it's much more intriguing than that. He is a plant from Captain Ridenour to get more information about Shades and Mariah. I love that moment when he walks in just after Piranha and Mariah have been celebrating, and kind of goes, actually, you don't know what you're doing here. I've learned a lot of this stuff. If you can't explain this game to a 7-year-old, then you're probably going to be the one getting scammed. And Mariah hates that idea that she may not be the smartest person in the room. That really gets her back up. So again, still not sure whether Comanche is going to last a huge amount longer, but really intrigued to see that he's now working for Captain Ridenour. I think that's quite interesting. Also, there's a little bit of a dropped moment there where he leaves to go and meet Ridenour, and you see Shades looking for him. He's told something happened with his mom. She called him up. Shades seems to know him from childhood. He instantly knows his mom's name, calls it out, and goes, why would she be calling him here? So I think there's going to be a huge fall for Shades when he realizes that Comanche's not on his side. He thought this was the one person he could trust. He met him straight out of prison and gave him a job immediately afterwards. So this seemed like this is a childhood connection that's been going on for years, and Comanche turning on Shades is going to be a big moment later on in the season.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think we're also seeing not just the fall of Luke Cage and his support structure, we're seeing the same for the Dillards, the Stokes. So we are getting the mirroring. What it will come is what happens when the king and queen no longer love each other. Like, that's what it's going to come to. I'm putting the bet down, boys, and I'm assuming we're all in agreement. Piranha is pulling a con. There is no
big time
shares. He stole the money.
Yeah.
Okay,
absolutely.
Grant. Like, it's just they're kind of smacking us in the face, like Bushmaster smacked Luke Cage in the face.
Exactly. They're doing a double backflip and kicking us in the face this time.
Yeah.
I'm also wondering whether this was all just a setup from Bushmaster, whether Piranha is working for Bushmaster, and that's how he got the in on the deal and how he knows everything that's going on, and why he doesn't take Mariah and Shades down at this very moment when they're as susceptible to him walking in to their place of business. Why he can't just take them out there is because he wants to see them fall. He wants to see her think she's the smartest person in the room. She could walk away from this with $1 billion. No way, I'm taking everything. I kind of like that idea.
Yeah. The one interesting bit we saw was that she put up the bar as collateral. So that was slipped
Yes. Yeah.
So that's what lead me to believe it's a scam. And as you said, I didn't want to go as far as that it's a ploy of Bushmaster, but yeah, I think it's just going to get, what we'll end up seeing is the bar becomes Bushmaster's, and then probably becomes Tilda's, and beyond that. But no, it definitely, the bar will be ripped from them. The question I have is, we're getting all this so soon. Typically with these series, we've got a kind of 2 or 3 act structure for this series. So we usually have like the beginning, the middle, and then the end. I know that sounds quite logical.
That's what we'll have in every single show, Chris, I promise.
Yes, I know.
It will happen in this season as well.
Yeah, they're going to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. No, what I mean is they're giving us a lot of information, a lot of story beats up front. So, similar to the Cottonmouth Diamondback, what is going to happen? Because, like, there was a set point where the whole tone of, and the whole storyline shifted. The fact that we're getting a lot of this so early leads me to believe potentially we're going to have a similar shifting.
Right.
So, what I have yet to see is where that shift could be going and how quickly the shift can be happening. So, are we going to get 7 episodes? 8 episodes where we have the storyline, it all flips, and then the final 5 episodes is something else.
Maybe there is another possibility, Chris. We're completely wrong in all of our predictions, and this is a much different story as the season goes on. That's the other option.
No, we're too good. It's not like we literally are some of the best investigatory Netflix series journalists in the world.
Maybe. I never say that. What I do think, though, is this is probably the most exposition-heavy episode that we've had. 3 episodes in, we've only now learnt about who Bushmaster is, where he's from, what's possibly the connection with Mariah. And I don't think we learned a huge amount of that in the first 3 episodes. So I think this episode was the one where it went, okay, slow it down a second. We've had loads of big stuff happen in the first 3 episodes. This episode, we're going to slow it down and give you some information. And then maybe the next couple of episodes will be a bit more sped up. There'll be a bit less new information given in those episodes. And then we'll have another slow down again a little bit later just to keep the story going as well.
But it advanced the story so nicely in terms of, you know, at least at this moment in time, that central Stokes versus MacIver, really, really interesting to see that history, because you're there for the first 3 episodes wondering, okay, why is he absolutely obsessed with Stokes? And I thought that was really, really good. I think the interesting thing, at least for this point as well, from my side is, you know, Comanche the spy, is he just a side note where it's going to be this falling out between him and Shades? Is that all that's going to be? Or will it play in another or different way with the NYPD being involved? Because obviously they're still after Mariah Dillard as well. So maybe ultimately this becomes the absolute fall from grace of Mariah Dillard. But what I mean is, you know, it's not going to be about death. It's going to be about a person and her absolute being crushed to the point where she has absolutely nothing. It could be because Tilda betrays her, you know, as has been speculated, along with the loss of her money, a loss of Harlem, the loss of everything, you know, Shades, Harlem's Paradise, and all of this stuff, and ultimately respect.
Okay, I've had a lot of sugar, as our fellow defenders can probably guess by the amount of stories and theories I'm coming up with.
No, we just called this episode 4, Chris.
Okay, yeah, that sounds about right. I was trying to figure out how they were going to deal with Rittenhauer. See, he's so against Misty, blah, blah, blah. What if Shades and Mariah deal with Comanche and Rittenhauer? That they find out Comanche is an informant, they need to stop things. What if Shades, so distressed that Comanche has turned on him, doesn't just go after Comanche and kills Comanche, but goes after the man who has turned Comanche against him?
Well, yeah.
We've seen his rage before. Mm-hmm. It comes up quite easy. So that could be on the bar. If Mariah drops him and he finds out Comanche's been informing on him, he goes crazy, kills Ridenour, kills Comanche, and then that allows potentially Captain Misty. They can't have her on active duty. Well, you can make her a captain. That could be interesting, and she can reform the NYPD from inside. But I just think, I was trying to figure out, like, because Ridenour is so against Missy, he's so against, and now we find out of this. I was like, how are they going to deal with someone who's so set against the vigilantes, he's no Jim Gordon.
Yeah.
From Batman universe. He doesn't believe in vigilantes. You need that someone believing in the vigilantes to a degree, and I think that could be a way to get rid of someone who's against them and bring in someone nice and new.
Right. And that's what I thought was just going to drive Misty out of the police department so that she can go and join Heroes for Hire with Colleen, Danny, and Luke. So having him around would be the reason that she would leave the police department. But that's an interesting theory, Chris, definitely. Let's get on to our final bullet point. Very short one, really, here, just because it's such a fantastic moment. I wanted to call it out as its main bullet point. We call this, there are people that run from the fire and people that run into it, because I thought this was beautifully done. Danny and Colleen have arranged to create Misty's arm for her. We see the little round box where she's called out by her full name by Danny and Misty, just to make sure it gets her attention. And they tell her that they really respect her, and when she's ready, they will have her new arm ready for her. I just like the moment. I like how Simone Missick plays this part where she's had the kind of heart on the floor moment with Colleen. She's had that moment where she's pitied herself. She's picked herself back up, been shown what she can do again, and Colleen and Danny are going to her saying, when you're ready, we know you will be. This is here waiting for you. And she just plays it as kind of a, yeah, okay, I think I could do that. I think I can step up now.
Yeah, so cool. I loved, soon as I saw the little Rand insignia, it was just so cool seeing that kind of initial drawing of the arm that hopefully she's going to slot on in there, and she's going to be like bionic Misty Knight. So cool. And obviously that we'll probably get a bit more of Colleen Wing, who I just loved in the last episode, in episode 3 with Misty. I think she's still unsure in the NYPD, in her precinct there in Harlem. You know, she's still getting flack from Ridenour. She's kind of, I mean, I have to say, just the look on her face when Nadia was just singing the show tunes was priceless. I mean, I was just like going, I'd be doing exactly the same thing, even though I do actually like show tunes.
Yeah, okay.
I would be doing exactly the same thing. I'd be rolling the eyes going, what are you doing? It's not set up perfectly for her coming back to the police, even though that's what she wanted to do because she was sick to death of just like hanging around her apartment. But you get the sense that she's beginning to realize maybe there is something bigger than the NYPD, that she can probably get her 75% worth of salary tax-free and do the kind of stuff that she likes to do, which is this PI, the detective, the investigative work. And this is the hope and opportunity that I saw in this letter, along with, as you say, just the great phrasing from Colleen and Danny. Really, really cool. And it's one of those cool moments for this series. I know it's Luke Cage, but Misty Knight gets her bionic arm. Very, very cool. Yeah. Given, Luke Cage, Heroes for Hire, Daughters of the Dragon, Power Man, all that group that are together in the comics, know one another, ping off one another, just really cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I was a bit put out by the simplicity of the design.
Initial sketch, I reckon.
Yeah, very initial. That's something I would draw. I'd love to see some little, like, notes kind of going, little gun attached here, or reinforced steel, or... I was expecting something more high-tech, something more kind of, like, I don't know.
You wanted Misty to receive 5 big boxes of a technical dossier on how they're going to create the arm.
No.
I do know what you mean, actually, Chris.
Yeah.
It was a little kind of like child's drawing on a graph paper.
I couldn't draw something like that.
No, I
now,
couldn't
to be honest.
either, but-
I think it's the intent. I don't think it's supposed to tell her exactly how this thing's going to work. It's to say, just remember, Rand Industries can provide you something like this. We have a huge organization. Hey, Misty, here you go. It's here for you when you're ready to come to us. It's not about, these are all the wonderful things to do. They're going to have that cue moment with her, hopefully, like in James Bond, where she comes, puts her arm on, they go, and now look at the cool stuff that it can do. This isn't just a bionic arm.
I know, but it did look a bit like Fisher Price's My First Bionic Arm. No, but in all seriousness, I was just hoping like they spent some of the special effects budget, and maybe when she opened the card, it flickered to life, and you got a bit of an Avengers star kind of hologram kind of piece. Like, I don't know, something. It's just like you're introducing advanced technology into it, and it's drawn on graphing paper. I was like, okay, just give me scribbles where it's like reinforced vibranium. It could have been the perfect Easter egg for vibranium. Reinforced vibranium arm.
This was a drawing to say, when you're ready, contact us. That's all it was. And I think it works much better emotionally that's what it is here, rather than having to pause the moment to try and work out exactly what it says around the drawing for us nerds.
Yeah, and Rand Corp doesn't want to lose its IP.
Exactly.
Sure.
You know, they're not going to give full technical readouts of a bionic arm.
To the postman, yeah.
It could get lost in the post, exactly.
Hey, that was courier delivered. There was no postage stamp.
That's true.
Roxxon could intercept the post, and then they've got bionic arms for all the baddies.
True, we have had Hammer Industries already name-checked in this series so far. One bit I just wanted to call out, because I know some of our fellow vendors is probably going, come on, Chris, say it now. For those of you who don't know, in the comic books, it's actually Stark Industries and Tony Stark that creates Misty's arm. So because they don't want to cross over too much, and I think we talked about this before in the last season, it's going to be Rand Enterprise.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see when they have Rand Enterprise, the R&D department, the high-tech lab. That's going to be cool, because when you see Tony Stark, you think Iron Man, you think bionics, you think high-tech. What we know of Iron Fist, we've yet to see a high-tech wing, an R&D department, in terms of high-tech electronics type of thing. So
right.
I'd be interested to see that. But just a little Easter egg for our fellow defenders who are interested in the origin of Misty's arm.
Yeah, and I mean, Stark is an arms dealer, so you don't really want that amoral kind of person being involved in, like, Misty Knight's rehabilitation.
And Rand Enterprises make arms. I like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it. Very good. Very good. One other hero that runs towards the fire, rather than running away from it. Just that moment, just to call it out, Bobby Fish talking at the end to Luke about the fact that he's going to go and save his daughter by giving her a kidney transplant because he's able to be a donor. I do think this is just underlying that idea of there are many different types of heroes. You don't have to be able to punch through a wall or have bullets bounce off your body to be a hero. I think this is just underlying the fact that Bobby Fish is also a hero because he's willing to give up his life for a girl he's not known at all for most of her life. I think it's interesting that we've had the mention of a daughter from Bobby Fish twice now in the series. One when he talks to Claire saying having a daughter was punishment for being a wild guy when he was a young man. It does seem to be a different daughter here that he's talking about because he says that her mother and him split when she was very young and he hasn't really seen her, doesn't really know much about her, but he was still willing to stand up and give his kidney to save her life. So it does feel like a different daughter, or else there was some mix up in the writer's room possibly about that idea, because the other daughter they talked to with Claire seemed like he knew her really well and it's been punishment for him. So I don't know whether you guys have any thoughts on that at all.
I just assumed it was they were reconnecting. That he was so close to her back in the day, something happened, now they're reconnecting over the kidney piece. I was also just assuming they were getting rid of Bobby so that Luke's by himself, and that they'll explain more when Bobby miraculously returns on episode 11 or 12, 13.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I loved the scene between Luke and Bobby. I loved them reminiscing about Pop. Bobby kind of says, so you've already done an Eric Benet, now you've been knocked out as well. You know, it's going from bad to worse. You know, he says, do you want the good news or the bad news? Ultimately, even though it's not about Luke, it ends up being bad news for Luke. And of course, that misery is compounded then where he gets served these papers right at the end. And it really shows Luke very much alone. You know, even D-Dub says, are you going away? You know, you're laying low after the knockdown from Bushmaster. So, you know, Luke really is kind of quite a lonely figure at the moment, other than Misty. And even there with Misty, she's supportive, but she's not giving him any inch. Like, she's not going to let him wallow or take advantage. And he's very much suddenly on his own 2 feet here, with Bushmaster and Mariah Dillard still very much present.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's our top 5 bullet points for the episode. Any notes, guys?
We get the line "dead frozen in ice" in this episode. Obviously a nice kind of nod to a certain winged captain in blue. We usually get the green guy, the guy in the iron suit, the guy with the hammer nods. I'm assuming that's what this was. This was a nod to Captain America. It could just be a passing phrase, like
maybe it was Mariah talking to Bushmaster when he was drinking the Bushmaster rum, and she's saying to him, "Some things are better left off dead, frozen in the ice." Potentially that's about the drink. He's got ice in the drink. Potentially it's just a regular kind of comment that you would say in a post-Captain America world, where you would say, I wish he was in the ice still and not out here fighting bad guys. Maybe it is that. But yeah, I definitely got the same feeling, Chris. I saw the frozen in ice line and felt it was some kind of reference to that as well. Definitely fun seeing Bushmaster with his family in Gwen's, seeing the real Bushmaster that we haven't really seen in the previous couple of episodes. We've seen him as the man with the plan. We've seen him as going after Luke. We've seen him as going after Mariah. But having that moment with him in Gwen's restaurant with all the rest of them surrounding him and having kind of fun with them as the new returning person from Jamaica to this gang of friends and family that he has there. I thought that was a really nice touch to have a moment with him like that as well. He also does get another big Marvel-type line, John. As a Doctor Strange fan, you must have kind of liked that.
Well, I think it brings the mystical side of things back into this show. Certainly, the voodoo element from him, where he goes, magic is science in its strongest form. So it's also channeling a bit of Thor as well, though, because you know, and I it's an interesting slant. It is that slant that magic is just stuff that cannot be explained, and in other realms or dimensions, it is effectively science. I think the Ancient One talks about it being, you know, the harnessing of energy that is all around us. So it really, again, a nice little mystical thing. And I think that's really good. And certainly if we see Danny Rand coming in here, that would be a cool element to bring to Bushmaster. You know, we kind of thought that maybe the mystical element, other than with Danny Rand, would be kind of gone from maybe the majority of the Defenders, certainly with the hand having been chopped off in the Defenders series. But I like this little flavor of it, the element of that mystical voodoo from, you know, the traditions of Jamaican and Caribbean culture. I think it's really, really cool. Yeah. And I say that as a big Brother Voodoo fan from the comics. Like, I love just everything around and surrounding that character. So this makes me excited.
Yeah, no, really cool. I love they've done that little drop in there in their conversation. My final note really is just about Christone Kingfish Ingram, who's the artist that's playing throughout this episode. He plays 2 songs, plays a cover of The Thrill Is Gone and I Put a Spell on You, and is definitely another one that's up there on my top level. This kid has got such a talent on guitar. He's like a mix of B.B. King and Prince. He's got that really beautiful blues voice mixed with his guitar playing. He's really, really good. I think he's only 19 or 20 years old now at the moment. So he's really early on in his career. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he gives us in future. But these two songs were so well played to be, again, just like in the previous episodes, brought in to the conversation because it's so important for this show to be brought in by Bushmaster talking about the blues is your ancestors talking back to you. Really beautifully done. Really, really beautifully done.
Yeah, I'm a massive fan of B.B. King, so seeing him do The Thrill Is Gone,
Right.
I was just like, yeah, this is great.
Excellent. Guys, think it's on to defense unless there's any other notes?
Nothing from me.
No, nothing from me.
I can smell a defense is coming, as The Rock would say.
I think they are. Chris, on that note, do you defend Luke Cage? Season 2, Episode 4, I Get Physical.
I 100% defend. This is a slower episode. I do want to put that in there. There's a lot more exposition. We're finding out a lot more. We get that sometimes around the 4, 5, 6 episodes where it does slow down. Then we get another peak, slows down, and we get the final. So I was expecting it. I don't think they're going for the slow burn, long payoff of like we'll get the large payoff. I do think now we're going to get a 2-arc structure. They're explaining a lot. They're ramping a lot quickly. Like if you think about it in season 1 when we found out Scarf was a snitch for the bad guys. We see that in episode 4 now. We learn about Comanche in episode 4 now. Like I'm like we didn't learn that till like what 8, 9 in season 1 about Scarf. So they're burning plot points quite quickly, so that does lead me to believe we're gonna get a 2-act piece. I'm fine with that. Like, speed up the pace slightly if you're gonna continue to burn this parts out, because I want to find out who is this season's Diamondback. Because coming into this, I thought this was going to be Bushmaster is the central villain, Mariah is the secondary villain, and I don't know how you're going to change this. And that's the part. I don't know. I have all these theories. I have these wild kind of guesses. Probably none of them are going to be true. I want to know what's happening. I want this storyline badly. I like this. I'm really enjoying this. That's why I defend it. I'm saying it's slightly slower than the other episodes. I'm saying it's potentially going to go too quickly if they continue at this pace, and the remaining episodes may be lackluster, but I want to know more. So that is why I give it a defense. I'm hungry for the snapper, if you will, as we get in the Jamaican restaurants.
Nice. John, do you defend this episode of Luke Cage? Episode 4, I Get Physical.
Yes, I do defend Let's Get Physical by Olivia Newton-John. Sorry, no, I also defend I Get Physical, episode 4 of Luke Cage. I give this 4 Shabba Ranks and a Macho Man Randy Savage out of 5. Just to chuck everything out the window.
Nice.
Definitely, it was a bit slower this episode, but I really enjoyed the exposition around Bushmaster, his family, the MacIvors, and the Stokes, and obviously then with Mariah Dillard. I'm loving that Shades is getting that distrustful look even more in his eyes, and I really enjoyed Simone Missick's performance here as the support to an increasingly isolated looking figure of Luke Cage. And I've really enjoyed that they've taken Luke Cage to that place. Seeing, people for various different reasons with, Bobby Fish, leaving to help his long lost daughter. Pops went in season 1, Claire because of things that he has done, D-Dub because he is wanting to make money and branch out. We saw that in episode 1. So I really enjoyed seeing this isolated looking figure. And I thought Simone Missick being his kind of one pillar of support, but still not giving into his charm. I really enjoyed that. And of course, for her to get that envelope with the card and the plans for this replacement arm from Danny Rand and Colleen. Really, really cool moment in this episode. Absolutely loved that. And of course, then, there's a bit more intrigue there. What is Comanche up to? What is Piranha up to? How is this going to play out? Is this simply just going to be kind of a traditional mob thing, or is it about complete destruction, degradation of Mariah and her name? That I think is going to happen. Love the Bushmaster rum. Love that moment in Harlem's Paradise where the two of them, these two titans, come together, where you have Christo and Kingfish Ingram playing his music. Again, really nicely shot, written, and acted with great music playing. So absolutely do defend this episode of Luke Cage. So Derek, do you defend this episode of Luke Cage, I Get Physical?
Yeah, another defender for me. Easy defend this one. These shows are going to always have episodes that are heavy on exposition, but that's what these shows are about. They're 13 episode shows that drop in one day, and most people watch them straight off the bat. So an episode of exposition just means you're being told the story here. You're being shown the story. It's not like The Flash. It's not 13 episodes of he meets a bad guy, he beats him up by the end of the episode, and then he sticks him in a cage, and then move on to the next episode. He beats a bad guy, he punches him up, sticks him in a cage. These are actual storytelling shows. These are shows about what's happening with all of the characters. How are they interacting? How do they know each other? What's the background? Why does one hate another character? What's their past? And this was a really well done version of that, I think. It laid out the groundwork for the rest of the season. It gave us some really good background details on our main bad guy here. So he's not just a villain walking into the show. And it gave us some great stuff with Misty, as we all have said. And it's laid Luke Cage low once again, and he's been served now. So let's see what's happening in the next episode. Looking forward to seeing that one. Guys, let's get on to some feedback as we're getting our feedback rolling in for our episodes as we go along. If you want to send in feedback, you can email us at feedback@defenderstvpodcast.com, or you can leave us a voicemail over on our website at defenderstvpodcast.com, or you can go on to our Twitter account at DefendersCast, like the director of episode 3 of Luke Cage season 2, Mark Jokes did, who told us it was an absolute privilege to capture two amazing actors playing off each other with such visceral honesty, like Rosario Dawson and Mike Coulter. He says, actually, in all the intensity of the scene between the two of them, we had a really big laugh. At one moment, Rosario took a long, long pause, and I was thinking, wow, she's really into this. Then suddenly she turned to me and said, I'm so sorry, I need to pee. Great moment. Thanks so much, Mark, for sharing that with us. And that was our favourite moment of the last episode. I love that they can have these moments where someone like Rosario Dawson is on stage and everybody's thinking she's being really intense in their performance, because she gets there so often in the movies that she's been in and the TV shows she's been in. She is a really intense actress when she needs to be, and just for it to turn out to be a moment where she needed a little personal time. That's great. Thanks so much for that, Mark.
Moving on, so over on Facebook we got some great feedback from Jamie Young, who says, I know I mentioned Shades and Mariah in episode 3 feedback, but I feel like the precariousness of their relationship is even more on display in episode 4. At the end of season 1, Shades was pulling all the strings, but it seems Mariah is now the one in charge, and Shades doesn't appear to be too happy about that. It would be fun to see how the tension plays out. I can't help but think they'll probably turn on each other before the end. Jamie went on to say, I'm so glad Luke and Misty are still friends. Misty's response to Luke asking if he could crash in her place was hilarious.
Hell no.
Definitely.
She finished off her feedback with, my only concern so far is that a little bit worried about Claire's character arc. She's kind of just Luke's girlfriend now, and that's unfortunate. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe the writers aren't done with her yet, but I hate to see such a strong and assertive character being reduced to the love interest who runs away when things get complicated. Jamie, I 100%, I think we've already talked about this, and we talked about it in the last episode, and I think myself and Derek are in complete agreement with you in that we don't want Claire just to be reduced to the love interest who runs away. She has a fair reason for leaving, and she sticks to her guns.
Yeah.
I don't want her coming back to complicate or degrade her rationale for leaving. I think there'll need to be a strong reason for her to come back. But I don't think she's just Luke's girlfriend. She's our night nurse. She's our Netflix night nurse. She's been a threaded character. We've grown 160 episodes of Defenders TV podcast. She's been in every one of the series. She's been there with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Really good points there, Jamie. And I really think that she hasn't run away. I think she's making a point, and I think that she really has tried to get that across without running away. For the short time we've been with these characters for the first 3 episodes of this season of Luke Cage, I really think she has some really strong dialogue, and I actually think it's more that she's made a point to say, I'm separating myself rather than a runaway as such.
Absolutely. She's made a stand rather than running away. And I agree with you. I don't want her to be Luke's girlfriend anymore. I think that's done now. And I'd like it to be Claire Temple with Colleen Wing and with Misty Knight in a completely different storyline going on in the rest of the series in this storyline in Harlem. I want to see that.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie, for the feedback. I am absolutely with you on Misty's response to Luke as well. And I really can't wait to see Shades and Mariah and how that all turns out. Claire Payne also on Facebook says, I absolutely love this season of Luke Cage so far. One of the highlights in this episode for me was Misty receiving the drawing of her new bionic arm. After a great scene between Misty and Colleen in episode 3, in Colleen telling Misty that losing an arm should not let this be the defeat of her, has now got to get used to the idea of having a part of her back. Brilliantly played by Simone Missick. Absolutely. Really enjoying Simone Missick playing Misty Knight here. Absolutely loved it, and I really hope to see her develop both with Luke but also with Colleen, as we've seen, I think in, as you say, episode 3 and 4 of this season, Claire. Yeah, really nice points. Doug Green replied, I've got 2 episodes left and Simone Missick kills it all season. She's easily my favorite actress on all the Marvel Netflix shows. Well, that sounds fantastic, and I really can't wait to get into the rest of the season and just to see how good Simone Missick is as Misty, because she's been just great so far. Absolutely. Sure.
Yeah, thanks so much, Claire, Jamie, and Doug. Can we tell Claire now that because of the amount of feedback that we've got in from her, from all the Defenders shows and from Gotham TV podcast, and because Claire Temple has not been on screen for a little while in our podcasting group, that we've actually called Claire Temple Claire Payne about 20 or 30 times over the course of the last couple of podcasts. Thanks very much, Claire, for your feedback, and thanks to everybody that sent in their feedback. If you want to pop in feedback to us, as I mentioned, just email us at feedback@defenderstvpodcast.com. So we have some more voicemail feedback from Ryan about episode 4 of Luke Cage.
Hey guys, how you doing? Ryan here. My review for episode 4. Really liking this. I'm liking the fact that Mariah doesn't seem to be worried at all about this investment that she's put a lot of money into. If that was me, I'd be very suspicious. A bit like Shade said, if you can't touch it, it's not real. So let's see what happens there. Several warnings from people, and I too seem to think it might be a scam or something will go wrong. When you hear offshores, accounts and money being moved from here to there, it normally goes wrong, so we'll see what happens. I like the conversation that Luke and Bobby had. Bobby obviously might not see him for the rest of the season now, but I do like the fact that he's gone off somewhere else and they're not going to kill him off, because I think Luke needs that relationship in his life. If he hasn't got it with his father, and he definitely hasn't got Pops anymore, he needs someone to tell him straight, like he did when he said, you Eric Bernay, the situation with Claire. And it is, he was a very silly man, Mr. Eric Bernay. You cannot have a woman like Halle Berry in your life and do what he did. Very silly. But so far, so good. Again, loving this. And this could be, like one of you said, I think it was Chris, this for me could be one of the best Netflix Marvel series so far. But we are only 4 episodes in. We did think that with last season, and look what happened. So, yeah, so far so good, and speak to you soon, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much, Ryan. Really good feedback there. Yeah, I think we're all on the same page about Mariah, that she's really taken this idea of easy money a bit too simply. There's definitely something there in the background.
Yeah, cheers, Ryan. Definitely agree on Mariah, but oh God, I need to call my broker. This is making me think about my offshore account. Of course, as soon as you're going offshore, Swiss bank account, it's just bad.
Yeah, speaking of Swiss bank accounts, we can't really say anything.
I think I have 6 Swiss bank accounts, to be honest. Yeah, definitely offshore accounts, Swiss bank accounts. Yeah, and definitely that little call of, and you've given me power of attorney that only grants me access to sort this particular situation out. Yeah, that guy's gone. He's on the run, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Ryan, for the feedback. Completely agree. You know, Luke is probably getting a little lost here with all these father figures either have gone, died, left him, or he's not willing to sort of engage with.
Yeah.
And of course, he's lost his lady in his life as well. So, yeah, really good point. Eric Benet, Luke, what did you think?
Exactly. And best season so far, Chris? How are we going?
We're still good. We're still good. Like, I'm now, the more I'm watching, I'm like, please don't pull a diamond back, but okay. Let's see how it goes. I'm open to wishing and wanting.
There you go. Well, Ryan has one other message just for you, Chris.
Guys, also forgot to say, I'm happy to take on the challenge of, translator for anything that you guys need to know that the Yardies are saying. And just so you know, this slang is called patois. But I am not going through everything and breaking it down one by one. But if there's anything you guys need to know, feel free to ask me. And if I know, I'll let you know. Not a worries. But yeah, thanks, Derek. I think you have my back. He said that's a lot of work. I don't really feel like going through and breaking down every single bit of slang that's been said by the Yardies in this. But I will help out our fellow defenders as much as I can. So thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.
Nice one, Ryan. Thanks so much for that. Realistically, that's what subtitles are for. I think Chris was giving you way too much of a job there. Always got your back, man.
Yeah,
Always
exactly. We couldn't stop paying the minimum wage either here on Defenders TV podcast.
Well, because we have no wage.
Yeah, exactly.
Ryan, thank you so much. I was going for a stretch goal. Okay, we can make it more realistic. Anything cool, like go on. It was go on, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I've been really trying to find a way to use go on in normal everyday conversations, but I'm just getting looks of derision and confusion from most people. I'm really enjoying just the culture. I'm enjoying the language.
Excellent. You know, Chris, there's a really easy way to solve this. You could just go for Mrs. Doyle with, would you like a cup of tea? Go on, go on, go on. That could
God
work.
bless Father Ted.
That could work
exactly.
for you. How about going for Irish culture and looking for a cup of tea?
The one thing I do want to ask Ryan actually is because I heard it twice now. Mariah, I think, said it to Nigel, is she kind of said wagwan or something like that.
Okay.
It seemed like a salutation, like hello or something, or how are you doing, something like that. It'd be really interesting to know
Cool.
what that means.
Cool. Well, again, thanks so much, Ryan. I'm loving your feedback. Voicemail. If anybody else wants to leave us a voicemail, come over to the website, defenderstvpodcast.com. Just click the send voicemail button and leave us a voicemail of up to 90 seconds of your thoughts, or 2 voicemails of 90 seconds each, and we'll stitch them together for the podcast. Keep going, Ryan. Send in your feedback. It's been really, really enjoyable hearing your thoughts so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Ryan.
We'll be back with our review of Luke Cage Season 2, Episode 5, all sold out next Tuesday. And then we'll be back on Fridays and Tuesdays each week from now on with a new episode of our reviews of Luke Cage Season 2. Thanks so much, fellow defenders, for joining us.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Yes, share this love and we can all get sold out together next episode.
As always, thank you so much for listening. It's a pleasure speaking with you. And of course, I'm off to find Nigel's head as he listens to Shabba Ranks whilst the rest of his body dances along unknowingly to that fantastic, I think, early 90s tune. Mm-hmm. But once we've listened to Shabba Ranks, we'll be back with you next time.
Shabba.
Speak to you later. Bye.
You think I'm holding